evening and welcome to Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. I am Star Smart. Let's begin. It is another Monday today, and as it's always the case in Amazonia, all commercial activities are grounded as the people of Amazonia have once again given today's ghost town the respect it deserves, proving that indeed powers have changed hands. La Republic does not have the old privilege it enjoyed over Amazonia. The interim government has put in place a speed brake on the path to the governing of Amazonia by La Republic. The imposed Monday ghost towns are paralyzing La Republic activities in Amazonia. Meanwhile, it's still the drafting season, and as you know, Ngoke Tunja drafted over the weekend with the president in his usual manner giving a remarkable speech. According to the new policy, only money redeemed at the time the draft ends is published, and the official figures published by Nijo moments after Saturday's draft has it to be a whooping sum of 18,579 US dollars. Figures are showing that the money would have increased tremendously to the tune of 25,000 US dollars. Adding to that, it's been brought to our notice that Boyi and Ngoke Tunja counties are still mobilizing funds post draft day. So a big congratulations to Amazonians. With that, let's have the prime headlines usher us into the rest of the news for tonight.
Right, here are the prime headlines for today. Mother Ghost Town continues to show sign of resilience. Tonight, traditional authorities beg peace to return to Amazonia. Bad La Republic de Cameroon government put businesses at risk in Bamenda. Tonight, we will be telling you why Ambazonians must boycott Fundi's funeral. President Sako says everyone in Amazonia should defend themselves wherever they have to. On the African scene, Sudan war enters 100th day as mediation attempts fails. And of course, on the foreign scene, Macron not invited to the BRICS summit. Now let's get the news in detail.
Our vision in this interim government is to make ABC a leader and a real war horse of our struggle. We want to grow it, expand it, hire and train more hands, and broadcast round the clock, around the world, and take command of the media space of this world.
You can enjoy all round the clock, 24/7 exclusive moments of bliss as an ABC Amba TV Club member. A cappella. Latest Nigerian/African movies, global politics, ABC Amba News and updates, historical documentaries, and lots more. In our daily programs, we have Undaunted, ABC Amba News, bringing into the news untold stories with Onyi Okpala and Star Smart. Exclusive discussion, revolutionary panel conversation, infotainment, edutainment, intro governmental debates on topical issues with Tar Paddy King, State of the Liberation Movement, Fronting IG, and People of Ambazonia's position, the Struggles Weekly Update with Secretary Martin Mungwa, PhD, FASCE. Health is wealth, health education, and awareness within the Ambazonian community. with Dr. Yaya. Liberation Prayer, an intercessory ministry for Ambazonia with Pastor Victor Amba. Our Freedom, spiritual awareness and education for the Ambazonian community with Pastor Victor Amba and Pastor Commando. Church and Politics, neutralizing the myths and preconceived religious and political philosophies that limit the Christian involvement in the realms of decent politics with Pastor Commando. The Horizon, the voice of the Ambazonian woman with Dr. Patience Abiedo and Lady Casey. Our Amber History, bringing to limelight the hidden history of Ambazonia to the world with Pastor Commando. Appointment on community building, education on patriotism within the Ambazonian communities with Ma Rachel Itatima. Ethics for an Emerging Nation, watchdog of basic principles and morals of a nation at war with Ma Dorothy Ngwa. Upcoming programs: Pigeon News, Vernacular Talk Show, County Roots, Activists Corner, Amba Focus, only on ABC Amba Television. We the people, the voice of the voiceless. For 24/7 access, subscribe as a club member on www.abcambatv.com/subscribe.
Our vision in this interim government is to make ABC a leader and a real war horse of our struggle. We want to grow it, expand it, hire and train more hands, and broadcast round the clock, around the world, and take command of the media space of this world.
You can enjoy all round the clock, 24/7 exclusive moments of bliss as an ABC Amba TV Club member. A cappella. Latest Nigerian/African movies, global politics, ABC Amba News and updates, historical documentaries, and lots more. In our daily programs, we have Undaunted, ABC Amba News, bringing into the news untold stories with Onyi Okpala and Star Smart. Exclusive discussion, revolutionary panel conversation, infotainment, on topical issues with Tar Paddy King, State of the Liberation Movement, Fronting IG, the piece of cloth made in Ambazonia, a land brimming with history, courage, and the indomitable spirit of its people, a profound reflection of Ambazonia's collective identity and our unyielding struggle for freedom.
A full representation of who we are, what we are, the history, story, and the struggle. It's a piece of cloth you should have in your closet. It is woven into a rich tapestry of cultural heritage, traditions, and long-standing desire for self-determination. Proudly adorned with unique patterns and symbolizes unity in the Ambazonian people.
The cloth's patterns and colors mirror the courage and hope that fueled their aspirations for a brighter future. Each thread represented a story of bravery, sacrifice, and the unwavering commitment to justice.
The piece of cloth, made in Ambazonia, became more than just a garment. It transformed into a symbol of a call for recognition, worn proudly by Ambazonians and their allies worldwide. It carried a message: we exist and we deserve to be heard. As long as the cloth adorns chests and shoulders, the spirit of Ambazonia lives on, and the hope for a free and united land remains alive.
Makaro, can you please unmute? Yes.
Everybody here.
The chairlady of the Ethics Committee, Madame Dorotingwa, the chair of the Judicial Commission, Barrister Timothy Mbesa, the following close collaborators of mine in Central Administration: Mr. Frank Cheney, Secretary of State, Department of Self-Defense and Security; Dr. Martin Mungwa, Secretary of State, Department of Communication and IT; Dr. Ndula Tom, Vice Chair, Ambazonia Ethics Commission; and all members of government here present. Dr. Amos Tumenta, Coordinator, Ngoketunjia County, Chair, Babisi Local Government Area; Comrade Klotchi, Chair, Ndop Local Government Area; Comrade Andy, Balikumba Local Government Area; the Honorable Dr. John Titanta, IHR Representative for Babisi; the Honorable Otto Tiale, IHR Representative for Balikumbat; the Honorable Ernest Bo, IHR Representative for Ndop; the great people of this county, supporters of Ngoketunjia County, fellow Ambazonians. Thank you all for honoring our invitation to this annual humanitarian endeavor today. This is humanitarian because we are here to help our families who are the victims of a senseless genocidal war to have the minimum they need to stay alive and defend themselves and their communities. Anybody who deceived or who was deceived that La République du Cameroon genocidal regime is regaining control of our territory, or that some kind of normalcy, as they call it, is returning, was in a shock a week ago when 15 civilians were massacred within a span of a couple of days in Bamenda, 5 in Abango quarters and 10 in Nacho Junction. That is not how a return to normalcy looks like. Such acts of desperation are reminiscent of the Ngabu massacre of 2020, the Mother Teresa massacre, the Mautu massacre, the Pinyin massacre, the Big Babanki massacre, the Kona massacre, etc., where the cowardly La République du Cameroon thuggish genocidal regime has wasted many of our loved ones with gross impunity. Only a dullard would think that the denial of the Nacho Junction massacre by the colonial regime is different from their previous denials of responsibility for the above registered atrocity crimes in Amazonia. They deny they perpetrated these crimes but refuse visas to investigators and will not welcome a fact-finding mission to get to the bottom of these heinous crimes. Why are they scared of independent investigation of these massacres? They plant fabricated accounts in their state-sponsored newspapers. They forcefully disappear eyewitnesses and pay lobbyists in Washington and big media to whitewash their crimes or cast the blame on Ambazonia. We know how many extra miles the Yaoundé colonial regime has tried to turn our people and the international community against us, despite the mountain of evidence of their genocide on our people. Unfortunately for them, they are dealing with a sophisticated Amazonian populace who understands the playbook of the enemy, and an experienced international community that should master all the gimmicks of the annexationists in a war of occupation like this one. We have resisted French Cameroon, these barbaric genocidaires in our territory, for 62 years, but more actively for the past 6 painful years. At no point in time have our valiant Amazonian Restoration Forces turned their weapons to target foreign civilian nationals residing in or visiting our country. We are not unawares of the fact that some Amazonians and non-Amazonian civilians are used as informants, facilitators, or infiltrators by the occupation forces of Paul Biya, thus putting this vulnerable population in harm's way. All these inhumane efforts have not yielded the fruits they desired. Our valiant ARFs have stood the test of time with a commanding presence, especially here in Goketunja. But out of frustration, the Republic of Cameroon criminals in uniform have doubled down on their strategy of attrition, this time with a focus on innocent foreign nationals. We vehemently condemn this very dangerous trajectory chosen by the special Bulubeti militia that wants to turn some French Cameroon ethnicities in our country against Amazonia. We saw this first with the attacks on the Bororos in Dogaman, and now it is on the Bamili case. Earlier today, July 22, 2023, we learned that at the Quartier Ewondo in Yaoundé, a family of 10 southern Cameroonians, Amazonians, were slaughtered in cold blood by so-called unknown gunmen. And I submit to you that this is the handiwork of the same Bulubeti militia on a mission to plunge Cameroon into a civil war. We condemn this evil with all our might, and let us be vigilant, Amazonians, and know that wherever we find ourselves, it is our God-given right to defend ourselves with every iota of our energy. The interim government press release published a couple of days ago by the Secretary of State for Communication and IT is clear on our position concerning these recent back-to-back massacres committed by La République du Cameroun genocidal hoodlums in our territory. They will pay for this genocide on our people, sooner or later. Let us observe a moment of silence in honor of one of our pioneers, generals of the ARF Ngokitunja, Shaumao, who fell this year not by the hands of our enemies or enemy, but by the chilly hands of criminals within our struggle. Let's include all our fallen heroes and heroines, as well as the thousands of our compatriots who have been massacred by Bia's genocidal squads in Ngoketunja County and the rest of Amazonia. We still have the recent Bamenda 15 fresh in our memories, massacred by the same French Cameroon genocidaires. A moment of silence, please.
All right, you're welcome back. Well, let's start the news of today. All right, July 24th is a traditional Monday ghost town in the entire Amazonia. Interestingly, the people of Amazonia have given today's ghost town the respect it deserves. Indeed, powers have changed hands. La Republic of Cameroon does not have the old privileges it enjoyed over Ambazonia. The interim government has put in place a speed brake on the path to the governing of Ambazonia by La Republic of Cameroon. The imposed Monday ghost towns are paralyzing La Republic of Cameroon activities in Ambazonia. It was yet another Monday today in Ambazonia, as is always the case. All commercial activities were grounded, yet a very buoyant Ambazonia with different activities in the different quarters. While the respect for Monday goes down, even after 5 years, while you are answering that, we welcome you again to tonight's Undaunted. How are you doing, Star?
Very well, Oni. Today, Monday, July 24th, 2023, the traditional ghost town in the entire lockdown of the Federal Republic of Amazonia, where the ghost town is being observed. The Undaunted team made a stop at some events ground in Bamenda and observed a variety of activities the people of Amazonia are engaged in on this day. While many have, in their respect for the interim government, called for this call for a ghost town, have used the day to make it a day to clean up. We have one resident in Ngongam who said, "I don't have any problems with a ghost town. Ghost town is the only avenue whereby the people of Southern Cameroon, Amazonia, show their discontentment to the colonial La Republic regime. For this reason, I have made Monday a day for my cleanup away from cleaning my surroundings. There is always a quarter organized cleanup on this day." This is explained by Elvis of the Gomgam neighborhood in Bamenda.
Others on Mondays, as they respect the lockdown, are involved in sporting activities. Undaunted visited some playgrounds and noticed that many Amazonians have Monday as the lone days to engage in sporting activities. Going to the Bamenda main market, a market run by Colonial Bamenda City Council, it was locked. Even the colonial administrators in Amazonia do respect the Monday goes down.
Now, this is a clear indication that powers over Amazonia no longer belong to La Republique, but to the interim government and the peoples of Southern Cameroon's Amazonia. Peoples of Amazonia in general are respecting today's ghost town, despite the call for this week's ghost town towards the banning of the corpse of Nijon Fruity in Amberland.
The ongoing war in Amazonia is leaving no one indifferent. The Fons are adding their voices to preach peace. The Fon of Oku, His Royal Highness Fon Ngom V, on his Facebook page is preaching peace. Well, it is laudable for him to preach peace. Last Thursday, July 20th, 2023, the President of the Colonial House of Chiefs called for a peace work. Indeed, these moves are laudable, but it is a wasted energy. These chiefs are on La Republic de Cameroon. They are auxiliaries to the colonial BR regime. This means that their administrative boss is the President, Paul Biya, the same man who declared the ongoing war in Amazonia. Instead of going to social media and calling for a peace walk, why can't these chiefs not write a jointly signed letter to their paymaster for him to stop the war, for peace to reign?
Well, His Royal Highness Fon Ngum IV, Fon of Oku, has reaffirmed his commitment to upholding peace amid the continued violence in the Federal Republic of Amazonia. His Royal Highness Fon Ngum IV said, "Why are we living our lives from a war zone?" In a Facebook post, "Why have we turned our inward landscape into a place of perpetual, high-intensity conflict between ourselves, and who are we anyway? They are people we know and care about personally. We are continually bombarding them with energy and time bombs." He said, "It's time we all realize that life is beautiful and people in our world make it so beautiful. For a moment, imagine how would your life look without all these people. Let's make peace and finish this energy war. People are beautiful and all souls and they are all souls at the end of it." Well, on Thursday, July 20th, scores of people in Bamenda took to the streets to demonstrate against the recent spike in violence.
Protesters carried peace plans and banners reading "Stop these killings." During the march, Bamenda City mourned. At least 10 people were killed in an attack planned and carried out by the Colonial Republic of Cameroon, prompting the protest. 10 innocent people were killed on the spot by the occupational forces on Sunday, July 16th, 2023 in the Bamenda area of Nigeria, also known as Abango. 3 days prior to the incident, the La Republic of Cameroon government soldiers had invaded the same area, acting on a tip from locals, and killed 5 young boys at their prime.
Moving on, heavy rain has flooded the Vatican Express agency, paralyzing activities. This is a situation that can be avoided, that could have been avoided if the colonial administrators planned the town well. Flooding in the city center is as a result of poor town planning. The colonial administrators of La Republic do not care about the sustainability of their projects. Their only interest is the percentage they are back in home at the moment from a project. The poor drainage system in Bamenda caused the flooding of the Vatican Express agency and the paralyzation of commercial activities there. With the persistent rains, that will become of the what will become of the traders who own shoe shops and shoes inside the park?
The colonial La Republic of Cameroon government, through its surrogates, is punishing the people of Ambazonian. Shop owners at the Vatican Express agency are bewildered by flooding of the agency as a result of heavy rains. Saturday, July 22nd, commercial activities were paralyzed at the Vatican Express agency. The movement of buses were equally halted as a result of the rainfall that flooded the park. This was as a result of heavy rains that fell on that Saturday. But the question is it truly the rain or the fact that there is no good drainage system? And how much more will the people continue to suffer if the rain doesn't stop?
Well, this is sadly a yearly occurrence. The colonial La Republic administrators keep giving a blind eye to this. The runway for the stream has been narrowed with buildings and plastic waste. Upon construction of the stretch in front of the agency, the bridge was narrowed. This is peculiar to the caliber of contractors the La Republic engages for work in Bamenda and other parts of Ambazonia.
The colonial Republic of Cameroon administrators in Ambazonia and Bamenda in particular, with a brown envelope, will give building permits for people to construct at BRICS zones. They do not care about the safety of the people, just their stomachs. Well, today, Vatican Express is paying the price of a failed regime. Ngoken Tuja County draft was all shades of success. In the president's speech, Dr. Samuel Sako emphasized that the fight is a humanitarian one that everyone is making for the liberation of Amazonia. He mentioned all of the massacres that has happened recently and encouraged all to be steadfast.
Fellow Ambazonians, thank you all for honoring our invitation to this annual humanitarian endeavor today. We are here to help our families who are the victims of a senseless genocidal war to have the minimum they need to stay alive, to defend themselves and their communities. Anybody who was deceived that La République du Cameroon genocidal regime is regaining control of our territory, or that some kind of normalcy, as they call it, is returning, was in a shock a week ago when 15 civilians were massacred within a span of a couple of days in Bamenda, 5 in Abango quarters, and 10 in Nacho Junction. That is not how a return to normalcy looks like. Such acts of desperation are reminiscent of the Ngabu massacre of 2020, the Mother Teresa massacre, the Mautu massacre, the Pinyin massacre, the Big Babanki massacre, the Kona massacre, etc., where the cowardly La République du Cameroon thuggish genocidal regime has wasted many of our loved ones with gross impunity.
The president also mentioned that the interim government has the knowledge and is aware that some Ambazonians and civilians are used as spy, informants, facilitators, and informants to Paul Biya. Well, the president says he rejects the trajectory. Hear it for yourself.
At no point in time have our valiant Ambazonia Restoration Forces turned their weapons to target foreign civilian nationals residing in or visiting our country. We are not unawares of the fact that some Ambazonians and non-Ambazonian civilians are used as informants, facilitators, or infiltrators by the occupation forces of Paul Biya, thus putting this vulnerable population in harm's way. Our valiant ARFs have stood the test of time with a commanding presence, especially here in Ngoketunjia. That out of frustration, the Republic of Cameroon criminals in uniform have doubled down on their strategy of attrition, this time with a focus on innocent foreign nationals. We vehemently condemn this very dangerous trajectory chosen by the special Bulubeti militia that wants to turn some French Cameroon ethnicities in our country against Amazonia. We saw this first with the attacks on the Bororos in Dogaman, and now it is on the Bamili case. Earlier today, July 22, 2023, we learned that at the Quartier Ewondo in Yaoundé, a family of 10 southern Cameroonians, Ambazonians, were slaughtered in cold blood by so-called unknown gunmen. And I submit to you that this is the handiwork of the same Bulubeti militia on a mission to plunge Cameroon into a civil war. We condemn this evil with all our might, and let us be vigilant, Ambazonians, and know that wherever we find ourselves, it is our God-given right to defend ourselves with every iota of our energy.
Well, President Sako urged Ambazonians that wherever they find themselves, he said they should defend themselves. He explained that it is God-given right to defend yourself from every form of pain. A minute of silence was observed for all the fallen heroes of Ngoketunjia massacred by La Republique du Cameroon soldiers.
The interim government press release published a couple of days ago by the Secretary of State for Communication and IT is clear on our position concerning these recent back-to-back massacres committed by La Republique du Cameroon genocidal hoodlums in our territory. They will pay for this genocide on our people, sooner or later. Let us observe a moment of silence in honor of one of our pioneers, generals of the ARF Ngoketunjia, Shaumao, who fell this year not by the hands of our enemies or enemy, but by the chilly hands of criminals within our struggle. Let's include all our fallen heroes and heroines, as well as the thousands of our compatriots who have been massacred by Biya's genocidal squads in Ngoketunjia County and the rest of Ambazonia. We still have the recent Bamenda 15 fresh in our memories, massacred by the same French Cameroon genocidaires. A moment of silence, please.
President Sako said the success of Ngoketunjia is hinged on the success and leadership on the ground. Even when some brave fighters derailed, he specifically thanked the Amazonian Restoration Forces of Ngoketunjia, especially for protecting the people. He agrees that the bravery of Ngoketunjia will be written on gold.
We salute our relentless warriors for their bravery and steadfastness in defending their turfs and resisting the enemy who wants to annihilate our people and enslave us in perpetuity. The success of Ngoketunjia is because of the consistency and resilience of its leadership on the ground, despite efforts by the enemy and some Ambazonian dissidents to divide and rule. We have all witnessed the exemplary defense structure in this county, even when some brave fighters were manipulated and derailed by the enemy to create a counter force against the ARFs. Somehow, Ngoketunjia still found a way to maintain her place and focus as a backbone of the people's self-defense architecture. My valiant Ambazonia Restoration Forces of Ngoketunjia, thank you. Your selfless attachment to duty has negated the void that could have been left by some of your forces who were manipulated to leave your ranks. FM Sargon, and all the other generals, commanders, and forces protecting our people in Ngoketunjia, we salute you all. Ambazonia is closer to Buea now than 6 years ago because of your tenacity in battle. Citizens of La Republique have learned to pronounce the beautiful name of your great county, Ngoketunjia, because of its significance as the place of death for their ill-trained and misguided genocidal thoughts. And when the history of this war will be written by unbiased historians of this liberation war, the bravery of our ARFs in Ngoketunjia will occupy a major part. Your military ingenuity in continuously refining your guerrilla war tactics, your contributions have even helped the ARFs fine-tune our national strategic security plan.
Well, in summary, the president proudly said that Amazonians will not be enslaved by their equals, La Republique de Cameroon. He says the interim government will not leave any stone unturned. His energetic words went on to say that drafters are the fuel that keeps the engine room moving. He advised that this present generation should not leave any fight for the coming generation. He ended up by saying, cash in hand is better than cash promised.
Will not be enslaved by an equal party in a non-existent union through fear, fatigue, lies, propaganda, or evil conspiracies. We are the never again generation, the all for one for all generation. And we leave no one behind as we continuously take on this fight against 60 plus years of annexation and recolonization. The IG under my leadership is leaving no stone unturned to make sure our brave people regain their freedom and enjoy their inalienable rights in their God-given country, Ambazonia. The generation of Foncha cowardly passed on their responsibility to another generation. Should I call it the generation of Frundi? Then the generation of Frundi preferred a transaction with La Republique than our outright resistance and freedom. So they failed in their responsibility to protect and liberate us. They passed on their responsibility to us. Our generation must not pass this responsibility on to the next generation. Viva our brave Ambazonia Restoration Forces of Ngoketunjia. Viva the great people of Ngoketunjia County. Viva the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, and God bless you.
That's about it for the president's speech for the draft of Ngoketunjia over the weekend. And at the end of the draft, Ngoketunjia raised a whooping sum of 18,500 plus US cash in hand. Moving on, the Social Democratic Front Party was founded in 1990 to fight the Anglophone cause. Unfortunately, Frundi, its leader, shamelessly walked on the blood of 6 innocent Ambazonians shot dead by the oppressor La Republique forces, wining and dining with them, thereby betraying the aspirations of Southern Cameroonians. As such, the Ambazonian People's Interim Government, led by Dr. Sako, consider Frundi as a traitor and has declared what is called at home front Mami Water a national lockdown July 28 to 29.
Right, so let's give you a little bit of history. The SDF was launched in Bamenda on the 26th of May 1990 in opposition to the ruling Cameroon's People's Democratic Movement. Crime syndicate following the launching rally, 6 people were killed by Colonial La Republique de Cameroon security forces. The victims were Fidelis Mankan, Tufi Matthias, Asanji Christopher, Umfon Edwin, Juliet Sikode, and Tuje Erastus. Cameroon's Social Democratic Front, that's SEF, was among the watershed challenges in 1990 by sub-Saharan African democratization forces against autocratic regimes, but it crested in 1992 and has subsided since then.
Well, as he rightly puts it, the party that was the hope and won the hearts of many started its free fall or nosedive after 1992 when Burundi won the presidential elections. The French said no Anglophone at the Unity Palace. His victory was given to Biya, and Burundi was put under house arrest, and the town of Bamenda, heavily militarized at the time. Those who put their lives on the line for Burundi were thousands of unemployed youths, including university graduates and old women, called the Takumbengs. These groups were ready to die for Fundi to leave because they saw him as the Messiah. But behold, as it said in the local jargon, that there is nothing impossible with La République. The latter saw Fundi as a threat and brought in money which easily bought over a once vibrant, fire-eating, no-nonsense chairman Fundi. Until his demise, Furundi had become a shadow of himself, started falling apart with founding fathers for hijacking the party manifesto for his greedy ambitions.
Now, here are more reasons why his corpse is rejected in Ambazonia. Well, he allegedly walked on the blood of innocent Ambazonians who have died and are still dying in tens of thousands to wine and dine with the enemy La République du Cameroun and was being guarded by the colonial La République du Cameroun gendarmes who are responsible for the killings and all other activities in these 6 years plus war of independence. He stood for one Cameroon asking for federation when he knows that the French cannot practice any effective federation. He insulted the Ambazonia restoration fighters, the ARFs, calling them terrorists when he knew that these boys are putting their lives on the line because of what he failed to do.
Well, he abandoned the youth and the Takumbengs who put their lives on the line for him to survive and escaped to live with the oppressor in Yaoundé, those who wanted him dead in the 1990s. He over-enriched himself and his immediate family through his unwieldy collaboration with the enemy La République at the detriment of the party and suffering masses that gave their lives for him. Unfortunately, the Cameroon youths, misguided by the corrupt CPDM, have been brainwashed and lack integrity, and they are too vulnerable or gullible. Give them their food and drinks and pay their taxi of 500 francs CFA. They will come out in their numbers to any manifestation.
While several other incidences abound. 20th May, 11th February, Women's Day, Labor Day, voting days, and many others. Those who come out on these days may not have anything to do with the event. They are only hired and they go out no matter the risks just to satisfy their hirers. Even La République du Cameroon's university students are involved in this as well, helping to hire buses, and for some of them, it has become their business. Well, it will certainly happen during Fundu's funeral to tell the world that they are one and normalcy has returned as well.
Meanwhile, La Republic helicopters have been hovering, patrolling his village. Consternation grips the city as at least 16 people have been confirmed dead and over 3 dozen others injured and some still missing following the tragic incident that occurred at midnight of July 2023, 22nd, at a vicinity called Container Rough, hundreds of meters behind Mobile Guinness in the Ndogpon when almost all the occupants were deep asleep. No one can say with precision the number of people who live in the building at the time, as the successor to the landlord himself is buried in the rubbles, but neighbors are talking of about 60 people.
Well, it is reported by neighbors that four children from different towns who are on holidays or died with their host family. Some families, father, mother, and children, with visiting family members, all perished. Neighbors attested that the collapsed building has long shown very conspicuous sign with cracks all over. It was also gathered from neighbors that the owner of the collapsed building, who was a pastor, died 2 years ago, and since his death, the children have never bothered to engage any maintenance work in the building.
While the visible signs of an impending danger had pushed inhabitants of the neighborhood to baptize the building Meuble de la Mort, loosely translated as death trap. Meantime, a Colonial La Republic combined military rescue unit made up of the Rapid Intervention Battalion, the BIR, the National Gendarmerie, Police, and the Red Cross have been working since then, the July 22nd, to unearth the dead bodies. One survivor, who happens to be a DJ disc jockey with a nightclub, was seen drinking to stupor when he returned from his nightclub job to find the building down. He was living alone in his apartment. Another survivor, this time a photographer, received an emergency call to shoot a marriage ceremony at night. That's how he saved his life. While others who survived, as reported, are parents who went out of town for professional reasons.
One construction engineer said the incident is not only triggered by the heavy downpour in Douala for the past week, it's simply a matter of non-respect of construction norms. He said many buildings in Douala will succumb to the same fate by the time the rains are over. The Public Works Department of the City Council is known to constantly cover owners of high-risk buildings who fail to apply construction norms, as they are noted for corrupt practices.
Recently, the Colonial La Republic's senior divisional officer for Wuri, Benjamin Mbutu, had put out a release reiterating that the population should move to safer areas as the weather conditions are unpleasant. With families wailing in desolation, no one can tell what awaits the population of Douala in the coming days or weeks.
All right, and of course, talking about the lockdown, the interim government has its position, and no one else can communicate the interim government's position better than Dr. Martin Mungwa. You should listen to this.
Alert, alert, alert. This is Dr. Martin Mungwa, Secretary of State for Communication and IT for the interim government. Today is Monday, July 24th, 2023. I come to you to announce the lockdown by the interim government starting on Thursday, July 27th through Saturday, July 29th. Dear ARF, dear Ambazonians, we hear Republic du Cameroon declare say they will go bury John Frundi for Baba to Ambazonia because they claim say John Frundi is the father of democracy. I want to make it very clear to una say this one a big lie. Why a big lie? I get the facts and put them in front of you. From the day where SDF deposit the paperwork for SDF for form the party, and that day will be 16th of February 1990. John Frundi, he be declare himself chairman from that day till his death. How management will claim say that one a demonstration of democracy? How that one be different from CPDM, where Bia be their president from the day when they be create CPDM till today? and definitely till he die. Secondly, we will go back for SDF. When SDF be created, not only John Frundi be chairman, he will be chairman of the governing organ. And that one are the team where APD run the party on a daily basis. And they call that one the National Executive Committee. John Frundi be the chairman. He will also be the chairman for the National Advisory Council. And the council where he advise NEC or NEC. And also, John Frundi will be chairman of the National Investiture Committee. This one is the committee where he determine who to go for any elections. And during this time, now only John Frundi will be candidate for president. So all these qualities where when I claim say John Frundi be father for democracy, how when I feel sure say we throughout a life, the three important organs for SDF. Now, John Frundi be the chairman from the time when they create SDF all the way to the time where he died. And now the one deceive Ambazonians for tell you say he be father of democracy. Which democracy? Maybe when I tell me the kind of democracy where SDF bring up for politics and for Ambazonia. Maybe now the kind of democracy where La Republique Noire, we want to reject this man totally and completely. You know, bring any democracy anywhere for Ambazonia. This one a person where he go invest na for La Republique du Cameroon. The last days he did na for La Republique du Cameroon. He totally ignore Ambazonian struggle. He actually suggests send they catch all the leaders for United States, bring them back for Cameroon, they put them for jail. This one is the person where they the parade for Baba One. So that more we talk say now we leader. I want for tell everybody today, the ARF and Ambazonians, say me no person, not even a fly, may come out for that day where they supposedly come for bury John Frundi. Make them military come, make the gendarmes and come. They fit do their business, but me nobody may come out for that day. Say the one for come for the funeral service for John Frundi, corner the traitor number one for Ambazonia. And this one fit very well for La Republique narrative. Say any man where it be against we, that the kind one when the force and down will neck for talk say now we leader. Look, Amadou Ahidjo, where na ye bring independence for La Republique to Cameroon, where na ye rule that country for over 20 years. We say body day today, he say the outside. So now which kind of hero way did the one celebrate for John Frundi? End of the man where he been a sellout. I mean they first ask for beer, we say Ahidjo body day. We say Ahidjo wife body day. They all be outside the country. They not be buried for Garwa. And today La Republique thinks say they want make a fool of Ambazonians for parade John Frundi body for inside Ambazonia. So one more time, I do want everybody when they be on the watch out. So this celebration when they want bring up for Ambazonia, not be for the good of Ambazonians. Thank you and have a blessed day.
Moving back into our reports for tonight, as the war in Ukraine rages on and the West limited attention to Africa focuses on Sudan, the civil war in the Anglophone part of Cameroon meanders along. It continues into its 6th year without any sign of political settlement due not to Western indifference and inaction, but to Western defeatance and actions that send the wrong signals to the kleptocratic regime of President Paul Biya. These are words said by Chris W.J., opening words to an article by Chris W.J. Roberts, an instructor in the political science department at the University of Calgary, which we'll be taking a look into tonight.
Well, looking into this article where Chris likens the war in the Cameroons to Sudan, another war-torn, sub-Saharan African country.
The piece of cloth made in Ambazonia.
Hitch there. Sincere apologies for that technical hitch. Now, looking into this particular article where Chris likens the problems in the Cameroons, La Republique du Cameroon, and of course, Ambazonia, to Sudan, another war-torn sub-Saharan African country, he says that France is hardly signaling that it wants to be part of solving the Amazonian crisis peacefully. And despite a strong bipartisan U.S. Senate resolution passed in January 2021 calling for dialogue to end this particular conflict and the Biden administration's extension of the temporary protected status to the Cameroonians in June 2022. The White House and State Department have otherwise taken no public action towards promoting peace, and we know that this is a fact.
Well, according to the political science instructor, there are lessons from Sudan that will likely remain unlearned in Cameroon until it is too late, when a looming crisis over Bia's successor could potentially drive conflict from the periphery to the center of the country. Cameroon offers a similar and tragic case study for Western foreign policy towards the continent. Lack of consequences for military leaders in Sudan since 2019 and lack of support for civil movement and institutions by outside actors led to a culture of impunity and violence escalating to an all-out struggle for political and economic power with an impending succession crisis, endless war on the frontiers, a factionalized governing party, and fragmented security forces, Cameroon faces similar risk. Outside actors have not yet grasped that a lack of consequences for those with guns puts everyone without guns in jeopardy. It's not that no one is ringing alarm bells about Cameroon. The United States Holocaust Memorial Museum's Simon Scott Center for the Prevention of Genocide released a brief in May entitled Preventing and Mitigating Mass Atrocities in Northwest and Southwest regions. It read, identifying policy options, highlighting the urgent need for global attention. The Norwegian Refugee Council has included Cameroon on its list of the top 10 most neglected displacement crises for the fourth year in a row. The International Crisis Group released a report in March that offers some concrete proposals towards political reform. This piece of article reads.
Well, given similarities, he explains that the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs reports that given various crises, 1 out of 6 Cameroonians would need humanitarian assistance and protection, totaling 4.7 million people. In May, the Global Center for the Responsibility to Protect confirmed the current official figure of at least 6,000 killed since the late 2017 in the Amazonian region and at least 715,000 displaced. The actual numbers, of course, higher. I mean, we are talking about 50,000 people killed. Well, then let's move on. With an impending succession crisis, endless war on the frontiers, a fractionalized governing party, and fragmented security forces faces similar risks to Sudan. Over the past 6 months, as attention focuses elsewhere, the situation in neighboring La Republic de Cameroon and, of course, the Amazonian has gone from bad to worse. Some hope emerged when Canada announced publicly in January that it welcomes the agreement by the parties to enter a process to reach a comprehensive, peaceful, and political resolution of the conflict, and that it had accepted the mandate to facilitate this process as part of their commitment to promote peace and security and advance support for democracy and human rights. Various other domestic groups and external actors, including Pope Francis, quickly announced their support of the Canadian effort. 3 days later, however, the BS government countered that it has not entrusted any foreign country or external entity with any role of mediator or facilitator to settle the crisis in the Amazonian region. Any momentum towards peace ground to a halt. Well, they brought that momentum to peace ground to a halt, and of course, the suffering, the war persisted.
He goes on to say, Chris J.W. Robots goes on to say, Paul Biya is offering Cameroon's Anglophones too late. Well, these are words from the political science instructor that resonates with a lot of Ambazonians. He, in fact, said the Biya regime can to be rewarded in ways that ensure military repression continues, with no incentive to pursue a negotiated peace nor substantive political reforms. That same week in January, that the government denied a Canadian facilitated peace process, the International Monetary Fund released its third review of Cameroon's economic situation after meetings earlier in the month. This led to yet another tranche, 73 million US dollars for Cameroon after the IMF board met in March. All IMF reports on Cameroon since the original 3-year 2017 to 2020 extended credit facility emergency bailout gloss over the impact of war, mismanagement, and kleptocracy on economic growth and development outcomes.
Well, the regime, according to Chris, is increasingly confident that loans, grants, investments, and humanitarian assistance will keep rolling in no matter what it does. The IMF's fourth review, released on the 29th of June, kept that tradition as it unlocked a further 74 US dollar, 74 million US dollar, I beg your pardon, while it admits with typical understatement that neighboring Cameroon's performance under the program was mixed, and that 3 of the 5 indicative targets under the program have been repeatedly missed. The fourth review never mentions ongoing war and excessive military expenditure. By April 2023, La République du Cameroon officials were emboldened enough to publicly announce their intention to regain eligibility under Washington's African Growth and Opportunity Act. The preferential trade terms for some African states that the former US President Donald Trump removed due to human rights abuses back in 2019. Well, we would continue with this report tomorrow. Coming up next is African Report.
Clashes flared in parts of Sudan on the 100th day of the war on Sunday as mediation attempts by regional and international powers failed to find a path out of an increasingly intractable conflict. This fighting that broke out on April 15th as the army and paramilitary rapid support forces vied for power has since then uprooted more than 3 million people, including more than 700,000 who have fled to neighboring countries. Some 1,136 people have been killed, according to the health ministry, though officials believe the number to be higher. Neither the army nor the RSF have been able to claim victory, with the RSF station on the ground in the capital, Khartoum, up against the army's air and artillery firepower.
Infrastructure and government in the capital have fallen apart while fighting has spread westwards, particularly to the fragile Darfur region as well as the south, where the rebel group has tried to gain territory. Over the weekend, the RSF moved into villages in the Gizar state directly south of Khartoum, where the army conducted airstrikes against them, according to witnesses. In Yala, one of the country's largest cities and capital of South Darfur, clashes have continued since Thursday in residential areas. According to witnesses, at least 20 people have been killed. Medical sources said that the United Nations had said that 5,000 families have been displaced and residents have reported looting of key facilities. Bullets are flying into homes. They are terrified and no one is protecting them. Well, this is what a 35-year-old Salah Abdallah said.
The fighting gave way to ethnically targeted attacks by Arab militias and the RSF in West Darfur, from which hundreds of thousands of people have fled to Chad. Residents have also accused the RSF soldiers of looting and occupying wide swathes of the capital. The RSF has said it would investigate. Late on Sunday, the Sudanese army said 9 people died, including 4 military personnel, when a civilian Antonov plane crashed due to a technical failure at Port Sudan airport in the east of the country. A young girl survived the accident, the army added in a statement.
While the two warring sides have shown openness towards mediation efforts led by regional and international actors, none has resulted in a sustained ceasefire. And we can only wonder how peaceful talks can be successfully carried out amidst airstrikes. And on the foreign scene, it seems Macron has not been invited to the BRICS summit. In June, Macron had asked South African President Cyril Ramaphosa for an invitation to the upcoming BRICS summit. French President Emmanuel Macron, who was willing to take part in the event of the upcoming BRICS, of course, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa summit, did not receive an invitation. Well, this is reported by the Stop Sputnik citing a South African news outlet. Notably, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, as chairman of the BRICS, has sent invitations to the leaders of 70 countries.
In the list of 70 leaders, neither French President Macron nor the leaders of the United States and United Kingdom were included, said the South African publication. The upcoming BRICS summit will take place in Johannesburg's Sandton International Conference Center from August 22nd to 24th. It would be open with a business forum. In June, Macron had asked South Africa President Cyril Ramaphosa for an invitation to the upcoming BRICS summit, according to the sources in the Elysee Palace, reported Sputnik. However, South Africa has been unsure whether it was prepared to allow other international leaders beyond member states to attend the event.
For a while, one of Macron's top diplomats, Catherine Colonna, confirmed that the president was interested in going to Johannesburg and attending the summit as an observer in August. She added that he was also looking forward to meeting Brazilian, Russian, Indian, Chinese, and South African leaders. The central part of the BRICS summit will take place on August 23rd. In this meeting, leaders of the member countries of the association will be participating under the chairmanship of Ramaphosa, while some segments of the event will be held in a closed-door format.
On the next day, August 24th, leaders of the BRICS countries will be conducting meetings with the heads of state and government invited through cooperations with BRICS, and a general meeting is also on the agenda. The list of leaders participating includes the heads of state and government of Africa, 11 leaders of countries of the Global South, representing regional organizations such as the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, the Caribbean Community, CARICOM, the Group of 77, G77, the Cooperation Council for the Arab States of the Persian Gulf, GCC.
Well, according to the Russian news outlet, Russian President Vladimir Putin will be participating in the BRICS summit events, but online in all sessions of the leaders of the BRICS member countries. Notably, this is South Africa's third consecutive term as a BRICS president. Russia will take over as a BRICS chair in 2024. Well, and in sports tonight, Gab Ellison has a lot in stock for us in the sports studio. Let's meet him.
Latest world sports. Football. FIFA Women's World Cup 2023. Striker Cristiano Girelli came off the bench to head an 87th-minute winner in Italy's Women's World Cup opener against Argentina. It looked as though Italy were going to be frustrated in Auckland by a gritty defensive performance from Argentina before substitute Girelli came good to earn the 1-0 victory. The experienced Juventus player had replaced Giulia Dragoni in the 83rd minute, taking over from the midfielder, who at the age of 16 years and 259 days became one of the youngest players in the tournament's history. Cristiana is a leader, a captain of this group, said Italy manager Milena Bartolini of the match winner. She is always there and we know what she can give. We are very happy. We know how important it is to start such a tournament well. Bartolini had no hesitation in giving a start to youngster Dragoni, who only made her debut for the senior side on 1st July. But ultimately, it was the 33-year-old Girelli who made the difference. Giulia is a talent of Italian football, said Bartolini of the teenager. She was ready and she did well playing in a big stadium. If they are here, it is because they deserve it. Come the crunch moment of an often touchy game. Girelli got on the end of Lisa Boateng's cross and looped the ball over Vanina Correa in front of a crowd of 30,889 spectators. Italy had earlier seen goals by Ariana Caruso and Valentina Giscienti ruled out for offside. Italy also included 18-year-old forward Chiara Beccari from the start. They go to Wellington next to play Sweden, who also have 3 points in Group G on Saturday, 8:30 BST. Argentina's next against South Africa and Dunedin on Friday, 100 BST. Alexandra Popp scores twice as Germany trounces Morocco 6-0 as African team makes Women's World Cup history. Alexandra Popp scored twice as Germany dominated Morocco 6-0 at the Women's World Cup on Monday in what is the biggest scoreline of the tournament so far. Popp, 32, headed home twice in the opening half to steer her country to an important 3 points in Group H, ahead of Colombia and South Korea, who play tomorrow. Within seconds of the restart after halftime, Claire Bull scored Germany's third as the European side pounced upon some sloppy mistakes from the African World Cup debutant, and Hanani Ait El Hajj inadvertently turned the ball into her own net just minutes later. Another own goal, this time from Yasmin Marbet in the 79th minute, made it 5-0, and Leah Skula's late strike capped off a successful evening for Germany. Despite the result, it was a momentous day of Morocco, who made history by becoming the first Arab team to compete in the tournament. Although she didn't come off the bench, Atlas Lioness defender Nouhaila Benzina is set to become first player to ever wear a hijab. The European finalists began its campaign in ferocious fashion, pouncing upon the Moroccan mistake to win possession back high up the pitch early on to allow Katrin Hendrich to provide an inch-perfect cross for Popp to head home and give Germany a lead in the 11th minute. It was Popp's 63rd goal for her country as she and her teammates made the perfect start to banishing any lingering demons from losing to England in the Euro 2022 final. Germany looked to have doubled the lead soon after, but Sarah Debrick's death chip was deemed to be offside, with replay showing it was the correct decision. It did eventually break through again though, once again coming from the head of Popp. Just minutes before halftime, Popp used her height and power to force her way past Morocco defenders from a corner to get her second of the game and put Germany firmly in control. Although the scoreline suggested Germany was easing to a result, it was anything but simple, with Morocco looking threatening on a counterattack with plenty of energy and endeavor. However, the result looked certain within 23 seconds of the start of the second half. A wayward pass was immediately capitalized on by Germany, and after the ball had cannoned off the post, Bull was able to power home her team's third goal. Despite the result looking out of their grasp, Moroccan players didn't appear to lose hope, with Anissa Lamari calling home what looked like a glorious goal, only for it to be ruled out for offside. Unfortunately for Morocco, the goals didn't stop for the two-time World Cup winner, with Ait El Hajj unintentionally turning into her own net. As the game opened up with Morocco looking to channel the success of its male counterpart at the 2022 World Cup as it reached the semi-finals in Qatar, searching for its first ever goal at the tournament, space opened up for Germany and chances began to flow. Mrabet's late own goal from a scramble off a corner, Morocco goalkeeper Khadija Ermichi had punched the ball off her head into the back of the net, kept up the scoring, and Schuler's goal strike wrapped up an emphatic victory for the Germans. In total, it was a strong display for Germany and show why it has been earmarked as one of the favorites to make a deep run in the competition. Rugby Union. De Jong, Director of Rugby, leaves Cardiff after investigation. Cardiff Director of Rugby, De Jong, has left the club after an investigation into bullying allegations. The 55-year-old was suspended on April 20th, just before Cardiff's final game on the 2022-2023 season. Young categorically denied the accusations, and an independent investigation was launched. A barrister concluded there was insufficient evidence to support the bullying allegations made against the former Wales prop. However, Young and Cardiff agreed to his departure after their working relationship became strained. A Cardiff statement read, "As has been widely reported in the media, on 20th April 2023, De Jong was suspended from his role as Director of Rugby by Cardiff Rugby following allegations of bullying, which he categorically denied. Given the nature of these allegations and mindful of its duty of care to all employees, Cardiff Rugby commissioned a barrister to carry out an independent investigation following a thorough process. The barrister concluded that there was insufficient evidence to support the allegations and that no further action should be taken in relation to them. Unfortunately, this process has caused strain on the working relationship between Cardiff Rugby and De Jong. In the circumstances, regrettably, it has been mutually agreed by the parties to terminate Dai's employment contract in accordance with terms within that allow for early termination. Cardiff Rugby would like to thank Dai for his latest contribution to the club during the last 2 years, which culminated in the club finishing as the highest placed club in the United Rugby Championship, which secured the return to the European Champions Cup. We wish Dai the very best with whatever the future holds for him. Work will now begin to appoint a successor and coaching team at the Arms Park, with 14 weeks still remaining until the 2023-2024 season kicks. Matt Sherrod and Richie Reeves have been taking Cardiff preseason training in Young's absence. Gab Ellison reporting from Undaunted, ABC Amba News.
Information just getting to the Undaunted newsroom right now, all the way from Mayu County, says that the county commander, according to preliminary reports from eyewitnesses, the Ambazonia Restoration Forces earlier today, July 24, 2023, ambushed and killed 3 forces of occupation in Ekong, Mamfe local government area of Ambazonia.
Well, we are told that the 3 colonial forces were killed at about 1 a.m. Amba time this morning. It would appear the colonials mixed patrol made up of colonial policemen and a gendarme officer actually did legitimate. According to reports, the body of the 3rd victim was dragged into the bushes. You could see from the images and pictures the colonial officer that were killed is now clear the Amazonian rescue across the entire territory of Ambazonia are actually gaining momentum faster than Amazonians anticipated. This is a developing story and we'll bring details as it is unveiled.
All right, and with that report, we've come to the end of Undaunted tonight. But before we go, let's take a look at the major stories.
Undaunted tonight, we brought to you Monday goes a sign of resilience, and also traditional authorities begging for peace to return to Ambazonia, being under the payroll of La Republique. The government potential is at risk in Bamenda, and why Ambazonians were caught through this funeral.
Well, tonight we told you that during the Ngokentujo draft, President Sako says the Ambazonians should defend themselves wherever they find themselves. Sudan war enters day 100 as mediation again. Also on the front end, we told you that Macron was not invited to the BRICS summit. For tonight, Undaunted, bringing into stories on behalf of Star Smart and the entire Undaunted crew, we say thank you for tuning in.
To leave you with ABC Amba TV images. Good night and God bless you.